Chapter 4, Lesson 3, Ranchos and Pueblos. Vocabulary in this section: vaquero, rodeo, fiesta. Build on what you know. Is there one kind of business in your area in which many people work? In Mexican California, ranchos were big businesses and many people worked for them. The rise of the ranchos. Main idea: cattle ranching made some California families very wealthy. After Mexico became independent, people in Alta California could trade with people in other countries. Traders from the United States and Britain sailed to Alta California to buy hides and tallow. People in those countries did not have many cattle. Rancheros and rancheras grew wealthy in this trade. A ranchero was a man who owned a rancho. Women who owned ranchos were called rancheras. Rancho culture. The music on ranchos, one of which is shown at the right, was influenced by Spanish culture. Rancheros and rancheras. Major land grants, which began in 1834, created some huge ranchos. One famous ranchero, Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo, owned most of the Sonoma Valley. Maria de los Dolores Ontiveros Yorba lived on a rancho of more than 65,000 acres. Wealthy rancheros and rancheras, such as Yorba, owned thousands of cattle. Whole families took part in running ranchos. Dozens or hundreds of other people worked on ranchos. They were gardeners, farmers, weavers, cooks, and hunters. Vaqueros herded the cattle. A vaquero is a cowhand. Many workers, including the vaqueros, were California Indians. Rodeos and fiestas. The ranchos were so large that their cattle roamed free. There were no fences to keep them in. Herds from different ranchos could get mixed. Twice a year, ranchos held rodeos to sort the cattle. Rodeo means roundup in Spanish. During the spring rodeo, vaqueros put brands on calves to show who owned them. Once the rodeo was over, it was time for a fiesta. A fiesta is a party or celebration. At fiestas, vaqueros showed off their skills at riding and roping. Families entertained visitors who stayed for days. Close friends and strangers were welcomed. What was the rancho economy based on? Vaqueros. The cowhands of Alta California, as you can see in the photograph above, were some of the most skilled riders in the world. They watched over thousands of cattle on ranchos. Page 134. Living in a pueblo. Main idea. Pueblos differed from ranchos, but the people in them shared many customs. As ranchos grew, so did pueblos, or towns. Rancho owners stored hides and tallow in warehouses in pueblos near the coast. That way, when ships from the United States arrived, traders did not have to visit every rancho. Pueblos such as Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo became centers of business. Traders sold California's goods in exchange for hides and tallow. When a trade ship docked at a pueblo, people gathered to see the shoes, spices, cookware, and other goods it carried. The trading went on for days. There was often music and dancing. Fiestas were a part of pueblo life, just as they were on ranchos. The arrival of a trade ship brought people together for a big party. Weddings and holidays also called for fiestas. Ranchos and pueblos had other customs in common. People in both ranchos and pueblos shared their homes with food with visitors. Homes in pueblos were made of adobe. Their floors were made of packed earth, and their roofs were made of straw. Government officials, soldiers, skilled workers, and some rancho workers lived in pueblos. The voters of each pueblo chose an alcalde and a council. Alcaldes acted as mayors and judges. They tried to solve most arguments among people in pueblos. The council gave advice to the alcalde. Land grants and pueblos. A cattle economy. Ranchos and pueblos along the coast played a part in the trade in hides and tallow. Reading maps. If you look at the map above, why do you think most ranchos and pueblos were near the coast? So you'll see a list of the different ranchos and pueblos in Yerba Buena, San Jose, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and San Diego. And you'll notice that they're all on the coast of California. Choices for California Indians. In the 1830s, after the Mexican government closed the missions, many California Indians had to decide what to do. They knew how to farm, but had no land, so they needed to find work. Some moved to Pueblos. There, they had to do heavy labor for little pay. Many California Indians stayed on the land that once belonged to the missions. These lands were now ranchos. On ranchos, California Indians often worked in exchange for clothing, food, and a house. They did jobs such as growing crops and tanning cattle hides. Some organized and supervised the other workers. Review. In what ways were pueblos and ranchos alike? Lesson summary. Ranchos were large areas of land, had big houses, had cattle herders, and had California Indian workers. Pueblos were trading towns with small houses, many different jobs, and also had California Indian workers. Why it matters. Ranchos and pueblos created a busy trading economy in hides and tallow in Alta California.